hoping to find out from my PhD? I was hoping to be able to examine the dietary use of biotic supplements, so that is incorporating biotics into the diet of the lobsters. And this was at the larval and the juvenile stages. We actually feed the larvae on live food called Artemia, and this is bioencapsulated with substances that will improve the nutritional value of the food. So I was hoping that I could add the biotic supplements in this way to the larval feed. The juvenile feed is a little different. They need a slightly larger substance of food, and we feed them on pellets. I had to create a pellet and then attach the biotic supplements onto the surface of the pellet. So I wanted to look at whether the biotic supplements were actually taken up into the food. That was the first thing. Was it going into the food and therefore going into the lobsters? And once I found out that, I wanted to look at the effects on growth and survival, gut structure, and also the bacterial ecology of the gut and the immune status of the animal. A secondary kind of aim of the PhD was to look at the external use of biotics, so not in a dietary purpose. And this was the use of disinfection of the brood that comes in. So the fishermen bring in females that have eggs under their tails, and we need to disinfect them obviously before we put them in the system and start rearing the animals. So it's the idea of using these preventative substances rather in an external media, in the live food and in the brood. And I also wanted to improve the understanding of natural bacterial populations of wild-caught adult lobsters. Because obviously we're releasing the lobsters back into the wild. I don't want to be adding a bacteria to the wild that wasn't already there, so I want to try and fit it in with the natural populations. So what are the conclusions? Obviously this, hopefully my PhD thesis will be this easy to write, but this is an overview story. Basically, I managed to successfully incorporate them into both the live feeds and the formulated feeds. The pre and probiotics, I use them individually, and I also use them in combination to see if there was any synergistic effect. Say the prebiotics removing the bad bacteria, and obviously the probiotics being the good bacteria, putting them back in. And I found that there was definite improvements in gut structure, so looking at the microvilli, density and length and density. And this was obviously supported by an increased food conversion ratio. And I saw increased growth, specific growth rate and weight gain. So obviously producing larger lobsters, so I managed to tick that box. And survival, we saw great increases in survival with both the individual use and the synergistic use of them together. I also saw improvements in immune response, which obviously supports the survival. And I saw a stabilisation in the intestinal bacterial ecology, so a stabilisation in the bacterial population. With the external application, I saw a reduction in the number of pathogenic bacteria both in the live feeds and in the brood use, so it has possible external uses as well. I also looked at examining, and I sequenced a few of the natural adult gut bacteria using DNA work and identified them, but it was beyond the kind of remit of my PhD to find a probiotic and do all the safety kind of tests on them. But I managed to find a few that might be possible as probiotics. So the dissemination of my work. This is the best bit. I'm going to use the John Rose Awards to help me disseminate my work through the hatchery, really. Because the visitor centre gets around 40 to 50,000 visitors a year, I'm hoping to use the visitor centre to get the general public crowd. Also, the conference facilities at the National Lobster Hatchery. We have schools and higher education visits, and also the local businesses hire out the conference facilities as well. The website of the National Lobster Hatchery, and also the shows and festivals that the hatchery visits. So in order to do this, I'm going to use two main aids, really. The first is going to be a short audio visual. It's going to be a 3-minute video. It's going to be played as part of a 40-minute DVD series that's repeated at the hatchery day in, day out. So all the visitors that come to the hatchery will be able to see this as part of their visit. And I'm also hoping to incorporate it onto the research page of the website for the National Lobster Hatchery. The second is a portable banner. It's quite similar to the ones you can see in the photo on the left. It'll be about 2 metres in height, and it just rolls down. And I'm hoping to use a mixture of graphics and text to kind of attract the general public, really. And then once they've been attracted, I'll be there to speak to them about my research. And I'm hoping to take this to not only the shows and festivals that the hatchery do, but also some conferences. And when it's not in use for this purpose, I'm going to erect it at the National Lobster Hatchery Conference Facility, so obviously it can be seen by the general public.